In the new technologies area for power generation, there are many, many uncertainties. Now, if we take the point of view of an investor, the profit for an investor is a function of how much revenue is coming in and how much it costs, the capital costs and the operating costs of the technology. So let's look at them in turn. So if we take revenue, there's a huge uncertainty around the future price of electricity that these new technologies might receive, and that's linked into the CO2 price, the future trajectory of CO2 price, because the cash flows from an investment last for 30 years. So we need to know, what the trajectory is over 30 years. So those two things, the future price of electricity that the investor will get, and also the CO2 price on the revenue side, driving the electricity price, are very important. Now on the cost side, the new technologies are improving all the time, so their costs are going down. That's called the learning curve of the technology. And also, that's uncertain.
Nobody can predict with any certainty what's going to happen with international climate change politics or international climate change science with any degree of real accuracy, nor can anyone make any absolutely precise forecasts of what new technologies will be available and what they'll cost. Given that uncertainty on both sides, it means that framing a policy that allows us to avoid nasty problems, even though we might not get it precisely right, is a big challenge, but it's really important, because otherwise meeting future climate change constraints could be very expensive for everybody.
What we seem to be bogged down in at the moment are debates around rising energy prices, and that is the cost of electricity and gas. What we need to do is to ensure that not only are those sorts of questions canvassed, but we also need to certainly look at the question about future energy supplies.
Energy security is not a problem for this country, and we have one of our challenges actually is that we've got more choices than almost any other country in the world in terms of what's available to us. I mean, the ones, probably the only two that we really don't have a choice about. One is real and physical, and that is hydro, because we don't have too many more mountains that we can dam in terms of creating hydro. And the second one is one we've chosen to make illegal, and that is nuclear. Now, apart from those two, and of course we do have a substantial amount of the world's nuclear resource in terms of uranium, we're in a very strong position. That actually makes it more complicated for us, because when you've got more choices, working out how to make choices is much harder.
In our academy study, we looked at a range of technologies, because we believe that it will require a whole portfolio of technologies to get for a low carbon power generation in the future. So we looked at coal-fired technologies with and without carbon capture and storage. We looked at gas-fired technologies with and without geological carbon capture and storage. We looked at renewable technologies like wind, solar, geothermal and so on. And we also looked at nuclear power generation. Well, normally analysis of this type calculates what's called a levelised cost of electricity, which is really the price of electricity that you need to make it economically viable in the future. And they're what I'd call deterministic. In other words, they're like a single line over time. The way this differs is it's probabilistic. In other words, we get a range of values in a probability distribution for the value to an investor.
What we are seeking to do through this report is to give decision makers an opportunity to look at the various sources of energy that Australia has in abundance, and to ensure that their exploitation and the source of energy that Australians will look to in the future really do tackle the dual questions of environmental and economic efficiency principles.